can continue. So we can continue, and we start the second session with a presentation by Mr. Torben HEINEMANN. Mr. HEINEMANN is currently the project director of the regional project Strengthening Sustainable and Digital Trade Routes and Logistics Concept between Eastern Partnership countries and with European Union of the GIZ. Since 2015, Mr. HEINEMANN has worked in Ukraine on several occasions. In Lviv, when the cities of Leipzig and Lviv started a cooperation in the Sustainable Municipal Partnership Program about public participation in the planning process of municipal roads, Street for All. Other visits to Leipzig's sister city, Kyiv, the participation in the Ukrainian-German City Development Conference in Kyiv, Velo Forum in Ivano-Frankivsk, and the Inner City Summit for Lviv. And today, we are pleased to welcome Mr. Torben HEINEMANN with the topic Sustainable Last Mile Logistics and the impact on road safety. Please, Mr. Torben, the floor is yours. Mr. Torben, you are mute.
There's always two buttons if you can't hear me. So hopefully you can hear me now. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the introduction. I guess I can share the presentation if that is okay with you.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I think you should be able to see the presentation now. I think this presentation will be slightly from a different perspective, as I could not follow the rest of the conference so far, only the last presentation. So I'm not working at the university. So I'm working from the practitioner side. I worked 20 years for the city of Leipzig as head of transport planning, and the last year in Tbilisi as integrated expert for transport planning. So what we showed there, or what we learned there, and also will be part of my presentation, will be to see the results. So to see the outcomes of it, and I will start with some first slides about the aspects of road safety, and this will be comparison. Okay, this is the right key. A comparison just from the city of Tbilisi and the accidents in Georgia and situation, how it has been over almost 10 years in this time period. That is before the Corona time. So those numbers ended at the Corona time. Corona world was different. Also the numbers of accidents were different and not really comparable to the before. So you see from that perspective, there's a more or less not a strong tendency in the development, and especially also with the persons killed, it stays all the same. So everything seems to be as it has to be. Well, actually not if you look also, if you compare it, for example, two countries which you cannot compare, two cities that you cannot compare, but if you do it anyway, then you can see that the total infrastructure in Germany and Georgia are quite different. That also reflects on the number of people get killed. And if you compare the city, Tbilisi, Leipzig, then you also see per capita the chances to get involved in get a fatal car accident or accident on the road is almost 4.5 times higher than Leipzig. So not going into that detail, but just showing as an indicator. And part of the reasons as well, we know that speed kills people in cities. So if the vehicles are driving too fast, then this has a direct effect on the severeness of the accident. So that's nothing new. That is dependent on a very easy calculation that I can do. Vehicle is moving, you had a reaction time before the vehicle can start braking, then you have a braking process, and everything that of this is related to the speed. And in cities, you typically compare speed 30 situation to speed 50 situation. And what you can say at a distance that the car is stopped already if it travels with a speed 30, for example, residential street, neighborhood streets, it's starting the braking process if the car was traveling 50. So that is the difference about the speed related to the impact and the in a situation of the accidents. And what is maybe less discussed, how the infrastructure is reflecting on the speed that vehicle drivers use to use the infrastructure. So there's a correlation. If wider lanes are built on the infra roads in the cities, the wider the lane, the higher the chosen speed is. And there's a lot of discussion also now about speed reduction in cities. If the streets don't reflect the speed that you wanted, because they're designed from maybe guidelines that were relevant 20, 30 years ago, then it will be very difficult to expect that the road user will use the speed according to the wishes. So just putting up a traffic sign in a multi-lane road with a reduced speed limit will not have the result if the visual appearance of the street didn't change and then the width of the lanes don't change. So typical standard width of lanes in Tbilisi in Georgia is 350 for a single lane. And with that, you have already speed that are far higher than the recommended speed that you need for reduced speed. So with the 350 wise, you have a speed expectations for driving that this street is meant to be driven by 70, 75 to 80 kilometers per hour. That is not safe. That is not inner city speed anymore. And if you would like to reduce the speed in the city, then of course you have to check first how wide are the lanes and how it's possible to reduce the width of the lanes. And that is one of the starting points of the topic of my presentation today. The second topic is how many cars are there in your city and how are those cars are using this. I'm not sure if you can see all the presentation. There seems to be some hiccups with the percentage there. The story here is that, that the density of the roads that you have, density and that you use a car by per kilometers in Tbilisi is much higher. So if you have more vehicles on the same amount of infrastructure, then this also results in more possible conflict situation, very easily, very logical. And now there's a question about parking, and I'm not familiar if you aware of this studies about parking. And I tell you if I can see the chat with this presentation. If you have the chance, I understand some of the participants are online. I can't really moderate the discussion in Kiev, but if you have a chance to write an answer to this question in the chat, we can use that. And the question is, how much time do you think a car is typically parked in a city per day? The 24 hours is the 100%. If you have more than 24 hours, then this is an invalid check estimation. So anything below 24 is part of it. Anything more than 0 is also valid. So how many hours do you think, what international studies in comparison come to the point, is a car parked in the city? There's one estimate, thank you very much, 21 hours, for example, one estimation. So more than 20 hours is already here in the chat. I'm not sure if you have a discussion in Kiev. If somebody can reflect that, I can see maybe some hands, but let's go on then. Still discussion, I can't see. Okay. So the studies that we have shows that above average, the whole working day, thank you. Above the studies we have is show that 92, 95% of the day, the vehicles are actually parked. So not all the time at home, but also at another location. So if you look at this, like about 23 hours per day, this vehicle, in German, Automobil, is actually not mobile, but actually standing. So it's a stand thing, not a mobile thing. And with that said, it blocks space. And another thing is the cars that we have today are growing. So the cars typically are much bigger than they have been like 60 years ago. There's those rule of thumb. 60 years ago, the car was smaller, and today they're about 60% bigger. And this means they also need more space. Well, it means road space if they're parked on the road. And taking the space means it is taken from other purposes, and that is the connection that I see with shown here. If we don't have proper space, for example, for delivery needs also to be possibility to stop at certain places. Average package delivery trip is like 42 stops per trip. They need 42 times per trip, or not per trip maybe, but per delivery day. They need the possibility to stop somewhere. And if that is not possible, there's a high risk that they stop at places which are not safe, and that cause safety risks and possibly accidents by vehicles that have to change lanes into traffic, two-wheelers, all ages, that probably have to face a new situation that they cannot use their proper lanes anymore and have to change into sidewalks where they become a danger to pedestrians, or they have to change lanes into other motorized vehicle lanes. So if we look at the situation, that we can see that it's not only the emissions we're talking about, that's another type of risk. I'm not talking about noises coming from vehicles, another health risk. But for example, there's numbers from Berlin that about 20% of all deadly accidents happened with trucks in the city, moving, turning trucks in the city. And if we look at parking again, the parking situation is a risk, not only from point of delivery, but also from cars parked at the parking zone. If, for example, bike lanes are at the street side and they do not have a safety buffer. Safety buffer is a technical feature that can be introduced between the parking lanes and the bike lanes to avoid the dooring accidents. You can see the dooring accident on this picture here, where you don't have the safety buffer, where you don't have the proper bike lanes, or the cyclists are afraid of using the mixed lanes, afraid of using the mixed lane with the right carriage, let's say, then they have the tendency to drive too close to the parked cars, and this is the most dangerous situation to get in an accident with a dooring accident, with somebody to open the car doors without attention. In the Netherlands, they try very early on in driving schools the so-called Dutch grip. So if you open the car driver door for vehicle left steering, you don't open the door with the left hand, but with the right hand. So you grab over around your shoulders, and while you grab back, you directly look back, and that is the Dutch grip. And that helps in the Netherlands to avoid this type of accidents. So no proper parking in the city, and no proper ways for having enough space for the delivery results in situation where delivery happens on the wrong place. And this is an example from the city of Leipzig, where I worked. And what you can see, this car is just parking red bricks here, or the brick tiles is the bike track. Parking on the bike track, just so they have the possibility for easy unloading, loading. So if there's not enough space available for this, what you can see here, there's a parking bay. The parking bay was built too short for delivery, and they just use it now an on-ramp, off-ramp to get the truck on the sidewalk. The other thing is, in correlation to this, is how is parking controlled? How is illegal parking enforced? And what you can see from the numbers from Germany compared again to the Netherlands. Netherlands are in Germany a role model in certain extents when we talk about building cycling-friendly infrastructure in cities. Sorry. And you can see that Germany, this type of punishment and enforcement is quite low compared to the Netherlands. So that reflects also the consciousness and the awareness of this issue in by the federal politics and the lawmakers in Germany, that they don't reflect this as a high priority. there's a discussion, and as you can see, there's also change in this in Germany, but the discussion still takes some time to get on the, for example, on the level of the Dutch situation. And then we have this as a consequences: delivery, or in this case, craftsman's delivery, parking on bike lane if you have this type of infrastructure. So also bike lanes are not safe. You have machinery parked. Sorry, it was a little quick. You have this unloading here in this situation. And how is this now in the perspective? Well, the forecasts say this is the numbers for Germany, and in 2020, this was from 2019, so before Corona time, and the prognosis was for 2023. And that's showing the numbers of packages delivered per capita. And the understanding was in 2008 to 2018, 10 years, we had a growth about 150% approximately, and there's this additional growth expected in the next 5 years. Actually, in the Corona time, this was exploding. I don't have numbers for that one, but this was much higher than the expectations, and there's a lot of delivery in this time. I'm not sure if that will be balanced, but what I hear from the companies is their expectation is that it's not going down a lot. There's some certain going back to stores in the city centers tendencies, but also at the same time, we still have the tendency of having more packages delivered, customers very spoiled in a way, but also expecting quick server overnight service with those delivery services. That means this is not stopping. This is creating a lot of traffic in the last mile. And the last mile is the most expensive mile for the delivery companies. They have short distances, but they have maybe 2 or 3 times attempts before they can deliver the package to the final customer. And they're stuck in traffic situation. They also have a situation not finding legal parking. Some companies accepting illegal parking tickets for parking violation, just including them in the prices of the calculation. And this is how this is reflected with buying the vehicles. So you can see that the numbers of the trucks with 3.5 ton in Germany is rising before Corona time again. And that is the philosophy. We want this. And this is how the German guidelines are reflecting the situation. This is pictures from the recommendation of designing a space for parking, the situation on street parking, and then possibilities for making on-street delivery possible by moving the truck away from the carriage lane for cars. They move it to the side road. Okay, 2 things. Where's the space coming from? Where's the space taking from? Well, the space that's needed here is taken from the sidewalk. So that means you either have enough space on the sidewalk or the sidewalk will be too small. The next situation is a combination of for less space. Still the same type of solution. We have this big vehicle, it's taking the space. Let's give it the space, take it from the sidewalk. Combination here, and this one having delivery on the sidewalk. So what is going on? We have a vehicle that is preferred by the companies who do the delivery, and it's taking the space from the sidewalk instead of finding a solution which is safe and the carriageway. Question is, do we have the right vehicle? We talk about, is this vehicle environmental friendly, different energies? Is it electric, different concept, battery electric, trolley electric? Is it hydrogen? Well, this is a lot of talk, but it's still the same type of vehicle. And in the city, well, if we understand the last mile logistic can also be organized with a different type of vehicles. And this vehicle could be maybe not 3.5 diesel truck, because the last mile logistic doesn't need that much delivery capacity. Then we can also start to think about e-cargo bikes and different solutions for this. There's a lot of testing on the ground with e-cargo bike concepts for different city hubs in different cities. And then you can get to different types of solutions. If you accept that there are different possibilities for different vehicles, you can organize delivering zones for different vehicles. So for example, in Germany, we have a new traffic sign, which allows delivery zones for cargo bikes. And what you can see from this space comparison, the space that you need, for example, for 3 cargo bikes is like half the space that you need for a small truck. And then we can think about new solutions. The accidents is less if the possible chances of getting involved in accidents less. If you have different delivery zones, different possibilities, different delivery vehicles, and having those small zones, there's a recommendation for every 50 meters to have such kind of parking for this last mile logistic deliveries. Then you can also think about new modes. And this is the vehicles, what are operating in the city of Leipzig now on the top left. And these are other examples just from cargo bike bicycle store. So what I would like to have for you as a discussion is, I understand from the program that you think a lot about how the Ukraine, how Kiev will look different in the future. And if you think about safety, we have safety talk a lot about speed and space. Think also about the last mile logistic, which causes a lot of traffic in the cities and probably will cause in the future. But do they use the right vehicle? And to motivate change of vehicle, think about privilege in providing loading zones for this new type of vehicles. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, dear Torben, for your presentation and topic. In Kyiv, we have a really great problem with parking space. I think you know this because, as I understood, you have visited Kyiv not one time. So do we have a question? Yes, please, Natalia, switch on the microphone.
I have a question. You see, my scientific interests are connected with safety as well. And if you don't mind, share with me your experience. If you don't speak about the last mile, have you dealt with parking for trucks? I mean, for commercial vehicles, and not at the last mile, of course. And the second question is, the hard shoulder and the buffer zone is the same thing according to the European Union legislation or not? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I will start with the first question. So with the delivery zones, usually we have a strategy in the city of Leipzig, where I worked most of the time of my professional career. That first, all the delivery has to be on ground of the owner. So that is a very idealistic approach. So that's mostly only happening for new investments, new markets. And then there's a second approach. And if that's not possible, then they have to be somewhere nearby where this vehicle can have access to. So there are certain delivery zones for trucks, but that means usually only for shops. Those delivery zones for trucks and shops do not help for this last mile problem for the package delivery, because there will be at one place for one shop, but the delivery is to every household, every other place. And they need this in a nearby situation of the delivering. So there's this philosophy, every 50 meters, in the ideal world again, you would need some kind of loading zone where short time delivery for this last mile logistic package service can do. So it's a complete different world of concept. In the city of Leipzig, we also organized at where we have new parking or parking general, taking away for bike lanes, for example, and the main road that we used to try to find special loading zones for truck in adjacent road. In the beginning of the road, we have some first 3-4 car parking changed into delivery zones for trucks, and there's also new road signage. I think actually the last version is from this year, so there's a lot of discussion from this, but we started earlier. But now they have a traffic sign, a road marking for this. So it's all still very fresh. So there's no, as far as I know, there's no studies about the effect of it and the respect for it. But we're doing this now that there's in those streets where we don't have parking for delivery on the main roads, that we try to have delivery zones for the adjacent road. Again, this is for the shopping street, no, where there's no parking anymore. This is not for the last mile logistics. So it's still two different stories. Was that the question about the delivery for regular trucks? Okay. The second question, I understand, for the buffer zone between the bike lane and the cars and the car parked at the site with opening the doors, for example. And we have this in the German guidelines, so I can tell you where we refer to. The German guidelines introduced this in 2006 already. Then it was an information in the RAST 2006. It's a recommendation of street design 2006. And in 2010, we had a new upgrade for the bicycle recommendation. Also there we have the buffer zone. This buffer zone is growing since then. So it started with 50, then 75, and only, 75 centimeter wide is now the recommendation. Minimum is 50-ish because they had it already in the earlier design guidelines. And there's discussion, is it wide enough? The problem is the more you get space there, the tendency will be that the cyclist will start to choose to get closer to the right side of the lane, and it's challenging them to do that. The question for you was if it's okay in accordance with the European standard, and I don't know them with the connection, so I can't answer that part of the question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yes. One moment.
Hello, thank you very much for your up-to-date topic. I want to ask you about fine. Why a huge difference between fine in different countries, and how this fine help to improve urban mobility, for example, in different countries? Yes, if this fine contribute in budget, for example, city or in other place, how it improve urban mobility, how it help?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, any fine has nothing to do with financing a city. So that is totally wrong approach. So if there's a lot of communication like this, especially of people who don't want to be punished. The second is, what is punished? Punish is wrong or illegal behavior. So if you don't behave illegal, don't park illegal, well, nobody will fine you. So it's actually the person who is parking the vehicle makes a choice. I behave according to the rules and laws, and then no reason to be fined. If I don't do this, I'm cheating. No, I'm to my own advantage. I allow myself to park on the sidewalk. Very easy example now. And that is illegal. I know that. That's why I have a driving license. Driving license means I know the rules. I know how to follow the rules. If I break the rules, I should be punished. And why should a society punish illegal behavior? Not because it's illegal. It should be illegal because it's a safety risk. It's a safety risk for pedestrians, for children, for elderly person. You know that. So as soon if you have an understanding, it's not punishing for the sake of punishing, but it's having a better situation afterwards, then you understand, okay, it's a learning exercise. I'm more conscious now if I'm doing something right, or especially if I do something wrong, why it's wrong, because it's against the safety regulations. It's against safety situation. And now why the prices difference? Well, first of all, every nation sets those prices for those mistakes and illegal behavior by themselves, and they set their own priorities. And of course, maybe the Netherlands, they had an update in 2020. I'm making this up. And the last update in Germany was in 2000. So that's why the prices also have a different background when they were adopted. What you could see from the chart is that Germany changed this one in 22, I think it was, and they had a better understanding. This price was not reflecting the need and the importance of this illegal behavior. So, according to the lawmakers, this illegal behavior of illegal parking is more severe now and better reflected. Okay, I'm not sure if I could answer your question completely.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Dear Torben, sorry, I know you have next meeting. Thank you very much for your time. Sorry for delay, and thank you for your time and your great presentation. And really important, I repeat again, topic for not only Kyiv but all Ukrainian cities. Parking, it's our